Good afternoon. Today is September 4th, 2025. This I'm Mark Blank, and this is the Commissioners' deliberation meeting in 21A-0141E, the Public Service Company of Colorado 2021 Electric Resource Plan. Mr. Eden, you want to get us started?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Michael Eden with your advisory team. On August 22nd, 2025, trial staff of the Commission, the Colorado Energy Office, the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, and Public Service Company of Colorado, which I'll collectively refer to as the Joint Movements, filed a motion seeking Commission authorization to initiate a near-term procurement, or NTP, and adopt a procedural schedule, the NTP motion. Last Friday, the following parties submitted responses: the Colorado Energy Consumers, or CEC, Colorado Independent Energy Association, Colorado Solar and Storage Association, Interwest Energy Alliance, and the Solar Energy Industries Association, collectively the IPP Trades. Core Electric Cooperative, Natural Resources Defense Council, and Sierra Club, or collectively the Conservation Coalition, along with Western Resource Advocates, or WRA, Holy Cross, the Pueblo County Board of County Commissioners, and the City of Pueblo. Before I get into the responses, though, I'll provide more context for what the NTP motion requests. Fundamentally, the joint movements propose an expedited process, the NTP, to procure tax-advantaged renewable energy projects while they're still available. As you know, recent federal legislation has accelerated the retirement of tax incentives for wind and solar projects. The rationale behind the NTP motion is that waiting to procure renewable energy projects could result in much higher costs if those projects are no longer eligible for tax credits. The NTP motion seeks Commission authorization to move forward with an expedited request for proposals, or RFP, that would seek to acquire up to 4,000 megawatts of renewable energy projects, 200 megawatts of thermal generation, and an additional 300 megawatts of firm dispatchable generation, which could be either storage resources or additional thermal resources. According to the NTP motion, Public Service is not operationally comfortable pursuing a clean energy generation only solicitation due to resource adequacy concerns. As proposed, the approved NTP generation investments would carry a presumption of need and prudence similar to other ERP proceedings. The NTP motion sets forth several customer protections that will be incorporated into the NTP process. These include ensuring competitive tension among bidders, requiring bidders to stick with their offered pricing, subject to limited price increases for tariffs and other federal actions, and holding bidders accountable for tax credit qualifications with no presumption of prudence applying to costs above total as-bid prices. In addition, each NTP bid must include a narrative demonstrating tax credit qualification, and projects must show compliance with the labor provisions of Senate Bill 23-292. The company also commits to consider project location with a focus on just transition communities. Public Service states that it will target a 50-50 split of generation ownership between itself and independent power producers, or IPPs. The NTP motion also requests that the Commission adopt a procedural schedule going forward. I'm not going to repeat the whole schedule here, but Public Service would provide on December 5th, 2025, an NTP report analyzing the potential projects. There would be an interactive technical workshop on December 18th and 19th, and company and intervener comments would be filed on January 12th. Turning now to the responses, most of the parties generally support the NTP motion. For example, the IPP Trades, Conservation Coalition, and WRA all offer their support for the NTP. CORE, on the other hand, takes no position on the motion, but argues the Commission should carefully scrutinize the interconnection and transmission impacts of the NTP motion. Holy Cross supports the NTP motion, but requests a Commission finding that Holy Cross's rights under the 2021 updated settlement agreement extend to the NTP. While CEC does not oppose the NTP motion, it requests the Commission adopt robust customer protections to ensure that customers are not harmed by shortcutting the Commission's standard resource planning and procurement processes. CEC lists 6 specific requests, which you've previously been briefed on. But these include ensuring that customers actually receive the full value of the tax credits that developers assume when they price their bids, and requiring public service to provide additional information in the NTP report that the company submits in December. In its response, the City of Pueblo reiterates how Pueblo Unit 3 has been vital to the economic well-being of the city and encourages the Commission to review again the 2021 updated settlement agreement, the report from the Pueblo Innovative Energy Solutions Advisory Committee, or PISAC, and the rest of the 2021 ERP CEP proceeding for context and guidance in its decision in both the NTP motion and the pending Just Transition Solicitation, or JTS, proceeding. Pueblo County expresses dissatisfaction with the Commission's oral deliberations in the JTS proceeding, but does not take a position on the NTP motion. And then finally, the Commission received a recent public comment from the Coalition for Community Solar Access, or CCSA. CCSA notes its support to accelerate the procurement of wind and solar resources, but encourages the Commission to ensure the accurate assessment of all transmission costs associated with the NTP bids, and to direct the company to create a path for procurement of distribution-sited resources within the Denver metro constraint. So with that background, I'll pause here for your discussion or questions, or I'm prepared to go through a series of recommendations on how to proceed with the NTP motion.
Yeah, I'll start off and just say I'm very supportive of the company's NTP requests, as I think there's real pressure to safe harbor projects for tax credit eligibility by starting construction prior to July 2026. I also believe that identifying and locking up projects early in the tax credit safe harbor window may create some additional competitive tension and lower prices as compared to the timing of the JTS resource acquisition. At the same time, I think it'd be useful to put in place some guardrails as CEC suggests. So after hearing from you, Commissioner Gilman, I'd suggest we turn it back to advisors for some recommendations along those lines. But overall, I think this NTP approach is a thoughtful and creative way of dealing with a difficult situation. And I applaud the company and the stakeholders for working together to bring this specific approach to us with widespread stakeholder support. Finally, I have some thoughts I'd like to share regarding the Pueblo County response. But let's get through the NTP issues first before we turn to that. So, Commissioner Gilman, thoughts on the NTP? Anywhere you'd like to go?
Yeah, I really agree with all of your sentiments. I'm certainly generally supportive of the concept, and this seems a reasonable response to really the time pressure we've been put under to try to secure more tax advantaged renewables before those benefits go away. And I too think, CEC has brought forward some fairly reasonable ratepayer protections. This will be a bit of a different process, a brand new thing we're creating here. So of course, I have all sorts of questions swirling in my head about how we'll encounter all sorts of different issues. Normally this is a very long, very detailed process to acquire resources like this. But I do think, given the situation, that this is a reasonable way to proceed. I will note, I think public service is looking for the ability to negotiate on some of their PPA terms from the 2021 ERP. And I would just urge them to use caution to ensure that they are being fair and ensuring that viable projects can move forward and that their negotiating tactics do not jeopardize our ability to be successful in doing that. Absent a far more detailed approach, I think that's what I can say right now in terms of just my concern to be sure that we've got everybody working, rowing in the same direction to try and get these resources online with competitive tension, but in the timing that is needed. So, yeah, with that, happy to hear from Mr. Eden.
Yeah, I'd just say maybe a two-way street. We also could make the same suggestion to the bidders to be reasonable. The only other thing I'd say is that the size of this is sort of a no regrets thing, given our approvals in the JTS, which were larger. And hopefully the timing is also appears to be structured to be in a way that's sensitive to the timing of the JTS. So it does seem like a thoughtful approach. Mr. Eden, you want to take us through the guardrails?
Sure. So this, like you said, this first set of recommendations will pertain to the customer protections or guardrails. Advisors recommend expressing support for the NTP motion's proposed customer protections and strengthening them by warning public service and other bidders that the risk of not qualifying for tax credits relied upon in bids could be borne by public service, the developer, or both. This is directionally consistent with CEC's recommendation. Advisors also recommend requiring bidders to address in their narrative demonstrating tax credit qualification the expected impacts of the new foreign entity of concern statutory provisions. As for CEC's other recommendations, advisors would grant CEC's proposed additions to the NTP report in part. The Commission should direct Public Service, in addition to what it has already committed, to include a description and analysis of the total cost of the proposed projects and how the company intends to recover those costs. However, advisors recommend against requiring the company to include forecasted bill impacts, as this type of analysis might be difficult to conduct in the NTP's expedited timeframe. Advisors recommend adopting CEC's recommendations to require Public Service to demonstrate in the JTS that it has accurately incorporated the accredited capacity procured in the NTP, and expressly state that the NTP process does not replace the Commission's resource planning rules on a going forward basis. Advisors recommend rejecting CEC's remaining request to eliminate the capacity caps for dispatchable resources and the 50-50 ownership target. Additional dispatchable capacity above the 500 megawatt cap can be acquired in the JTS. As for the 50% ownership target, the Commission will have discretion to approve only those NTP projects the Commission deems are appropriate. So before I turn to my recommendations on Holy Cross's request, I'll pause here for a vote on the customer protections.
Commissioner Gumman?
I agree.
As do I.
Thank you. So moving to Holy Cross's issues, based on its response, Holy Cross and Public Service apparently agree on Holy Cross's rights to acquire NTP projects, as well as how to communicate these rights to bidders. Advisors recommend allowing Public Service and Holy Cross to move forward consistent with their agreement, but expressly allowing other parties to respond to Holy Cross's proposal to acquire NTP projects and their responses to the NTP report.
Commissioner Gumman?
I agree.
As do I.
All right, so we also have a few recommendations regarding the procedural schedule. First, advisors recommend requiring Public Service to file a motion to acquire NTP resources along with the NTP report that the company plans to file on December 5th. Related to this change, the Commission should preemptively waive the company's conferral requirements for the December 5th motion. The Commission should further schedule a status conference on December 12th, 2025 to flesh out the company's proposed logistics for the interactive technical workshop. Likewise, the proposed comment deadline of January 12th should instead be a response deadline for intervener responses to the motion to acquire NTP resources. The Commission should also make January 12th the deadline for any settlements. Public Service could file a motion to reply if necessary, but any such reply should be submitted prior to January 23rd. I have two more substantive recommendations, but I'll pause here for a vote on the procedural changes.
Commissioner Gumman?
I agree.
As do I.
Okay, so last two substantive recommendations. The first, while the Commission could note its general agreement that selected NTP projects will likely qualify for a presumption of prudence under Rule 3617D, advisors recommend clarifying that the Commission will retain discretion to limit or condition the application of Rule 3617D until after it can evaluate the specific NTP projects. And then second, advisors recommend directing public service and encouraging the other parties to file proposals by September 24th, 2025, addressing the concern that developers will target the NTP RFP at the expense of the JTS base RFP. The Commission should ask the parties to address ways to encourage developers to submit bids both in the NTP RFP and the JTS base RFP, including specifically by waiving the JTS bid fee for projects that have bid into the NTP RFP.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
as do I. Is that it for the advisor's recommendations? I have one I'd like to make on my own motion.
Yep, that does it for me on the NTP motion.
Yeah, one last thing on the NTP before jumping to the Pueblo County response filing. I was really pleased to see a commitment by the company in its motion to consider placing new generation, including dispatchable generation, in communities with retiring coal plants. I strongly support this approach and propose that we put some language in our NTP order saying something like, this commission prefers to see new dispatchable and other generation located in communities with retiring coal plants, as long as there is reasonable competitive tension and manageable long-term rate impact, even if it's not necessarily lowest cost. I believe that this approach is in line with our prior phase 1 and phase 2 decisions, in which the modeling incentivized new investment in these locations to offset community assistance payments. In the JTS, we kept this modeling approach and added additional incentives to drive new investment, like the joint transition modeling credits. As I see it, one of the core requests of the joint just transition communities is that if Colorado is going to build new natural gas or other dispatchable generation, we should set up processes that seek to locate that generation in those communities, even if it may not necessarily be the lowest cost resource. So, Commissioner Gilman, would you be willing to include some language like that in our order in this NTP decision?
Yes.
All right. I think that's all I have on that. Ms. Reedon, you want to shift to the Pueblo County motion?
Sure. So
response.
Yeah, the Pueblo County's response to the NTP motion primarily discusses the Commission's oral deliberations in the pending JTS proceeding. For instance, Pueblo County alleges that the Commission did not consider the PISAC report and associated testimony and failed to discuss specific testimony from Pueblo County witnesses. Pueblo County suggests that the Commission has already decided not to consider innovative technologies like advanced nuclear for coal communities. The county asserts that the failure to even consider new gas plants or advanced nuclear and refusing to provide meaningful bid credits means there will be no just transition for Pueblo. Pueblo County acknowledges that it joined the 2021 settlement agreement that sets forth the anticipated community assistance payments for Pueblo, along with capacity restrictions and an accelerated retirement of Unit 3. Pueblo County states, however, that it is in the process of requesting that the federal government remove the capacity restrictions on Unit 3 and order Unit 2 and Unit 3 to remain open until the replacement generation is constructed in Pueblo.
Yeah, so just I'd like to share some thoughts. Overall, I commit to review the materials, the PSAC materials, and the other information referenced by the city of Pueblo as context for the TBC and RRR process in the JTS. I also strongly agree with the idea that we should be driving new generation investment in communities like Pueblo including dispatchable generation. And once the written JTS decision comes out, I think it will be clearer how this commission is promoting that goal. For one, we've kept the $162 million in community assistance payments that was included in the 2021 ERP settlement. Two, we supported a significant additional modeling credit of $1 per kilowatt month or $2 per megawatt hour for resources that locate in communities with retiring coal plants, which could be up to 5 to 10% of the project value. Third, we approved a $100 million fund for a carbon-free future development concept that aims to provide initial financial support for new resources such as advanced nuclear and geothermal by adding a rep from Pueblo as a voting member of the advisory board. And all this is in addition to the existing transmission capacity that will free up once the coal plants retire, and should be a significant advantage for projects that seek to locate by Pueblo. If the county were to withdraw from the settlement agreement, including its support for the capacity restriction on Unit 3, I just say that may have far-reaching impacts, including potentially on presumptions of prudence, the need for new resources, the availability of transmission capacity, the company's safe harbor qualification, and the projected $162 million in community assistance payments that the settlement agreement contemplates. But I'm hopeful we can pull this back together, as I think the substantive gap between what the community said it wanted in its statement of position and what we've already approved and what we can perhaps offer as the JTS process moves toward completion may not be that large. More specifically, through both the TBC and RRR processes, I intend to take another look at my prior vote to partially reduce the JTS credits for resources located in communities with retiring coal plants, which seems to be one of the main issues raised in the county response. My concern with those credits primarily revolved around the detailed specifics that, in my view, created a significant lack of accountability and the potential for gaming. But both of those concerns may be addressable through some relatively straightforward guardrails. I'd also like to take another look at some of the labor issues raised in the county response. In sum, I just say that these are very challenging decisions with a wide array of competing interests made under substantial time pressure and in an incredibly packed docket of proceedings. Despite that, I think we've done an effective job trying to balance the various affordability, reliability, community assistance, economic development, environmental, equity, and other priorities to reach an initial decision. And I think we've done this while seeking to maintain competitive tension in the bid process and trying as best we can to treat all parties fairly and with respect. So that's my thought. Commissioner Gilman, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, not a ton about the JTS today, as this is not a JTS meeting. The time for reconsideration of JTS decisions will be in the JTS, and there's a RRR process that can certainly handle any of those discussions. Yeah, so I don't have a lot to add today. Certainly, I think there was quite a thorough consideration of ideas, including several ideas that originated from the PISAC report that made their way into the final deliberations. So, yeah, I'd be happy to hear what different parties have to say on RRR, but I don't have a lot to add here in this proceeding, which is a different proceeding from which those discussions were had.
All right. Mr. Eden, anything else?
Yeah, I'd just like to just confirm that an ABC decision on the NTP discussion is sufficient for today. I think that the parties requested a September 8th deadline for getting that decision out, so we can try and hustle to get that decision issued by September 8th, and then that any discussion on the JTS and the modeling credits could be addressed as appropriate through RRR or the TBC process and the JTS proceeding.
Yeah, that'd be great. ABC works for me. I assume for you, Commissioner Gilman. All right.
Okay. Nothing else.
Anything else? We're adjourned. Thank you.